Good evening. I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Round Lake Area District 116 Board of Education on July 18th, 2022 at 7 p.m. in the Round Lake High School Media Center. If I can get started with a roll call, please.
Mrs. McGinley?
Here.
Mr. Francisco?
Here.
Mr. Tavera?
Here.
Miss Lee?
Here.
Mr. Jewett?
Here. All right, and next up is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first up, we have an approval of the meeting agenda. We have a meeting agenda in front of us. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Miss Lee. Roll call, please.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
And we have an approved agenda, and first up on it is communications to the board, COSPA, the Urban Boards Alliance Symposium. I can hit the highlights on this one for everyone. This is more directed at the board, but there is the Urban Boards Alliance Symposium, which will be September 8th and 9th, which is going to be at the Omni Hotel right there on Centennial Park in Atlanta. This is going to be the inaugural symposium for COSBA, which is the new organization that Illinois joined up with Florida and Texas and all of that, creating that. So this is the continuing education programming, much like NSBA and all of that. And we'll have some NSBA conversation as well. But that is available if anyone is interested in that. We can definitely reach out to the administration and let them know if you have an interest in it, and do we have any questions in regards to it.
Have we allocated how many people we can send, or if interested?
Don, do we have any numbers on that? I know that the budget, we have a budget, but
No, what I can do is, you put the cost in here, I'll look at what we spend historically for the national conferences, and then I can send something out in the weekly. Does that work? And I can run it by you?
yeah, and let's make sure that we also, because we did use the national that we already did this year, and I know that we have III's budget is built out of that as well, and I know we have other there, so we want to make sure that we're not double counting anything.
You'll have enough funds to send some multiple representatives, but I'll work with Genera and I'll look at the line items within the budget.
Perfect. So then, yeah, follow up both of us on a weekly and let us know how many people have the opportunity on that. And then also keep in mind, and for us, for planning and finance can talk about this as well, more than likely COSPA will be having its own NSBA type event as an annual event. That would be quote-unquote competing with it. And per our second conversation point, the NSBA membership, we'll talk about that we'll still have the ability to send people to NSBA as well. So we need to make sure we're planning that and allocate it out. Maybe the numbers need to change a little bit from the 3. So thank you. Any other questions on point 1? If not, we'll move to point 2, which is NSBA membership. We've gotten some clarification on NSBA membership, and one of the things that is key is we currently have the National Connect subscription with NSBA. That fee, we've been paying that fee, and for this year it will remain the same, but next year it's going to increase to a non-membership fee because the state of Illinois is no longer an NSBA member. So at this point, we as a board need to have a discussion whether this NSBA National Connect subscription is something we want to continue on, which will actually give us the ability, as I already said, to send people, granted at a non-member rate. So we're going to be paying a higher rate to send people to NSBA than we have in the past, but it'll still give us that opportunity to have that communication and that flow. So in essence, we would have the ability to have NSBA as well as the COSBA so that we'd still have that national presence, but it'd be two groups of different sets of states. Any questions in regards to that?
So we're paying for two different associations right now?
Technically, no. Right now, we've always been paying for this National Connect subscription while we were part of NSBA. That is just going to increase to a non-membership fee after this calendar year because of Illinois withdrawing from NSBA. COSBA is a new organization that we're going to be part of automatically because ISB is in it. And at this point, we have not gotten anything, to the best of our knowledge, of fees for any of that. That could change in the future.
And when you said calendar year, that's school calendar year?
School calendar year,
So
thank
as
you.
of next month, we're part of the NSBA and COS, the COSBA as well.
But we're that as of right now. So yeah, we're both right now. And I'll put my 2 cents in. I think that we probably gain benefit from having both lines of sight, both with the NSBA states as well as with the COSBA states. I'm happy to hear other conversation.
I was just going to ask if COSBA will offer something similar to what, because if they do, then why would we do both?
At this moment, we have not heard that they are. So, but that's a great point, that at some point, COSBA may be able to unseat it, but as of this moment, I don't see that happening right now.
And I know this is newly formed and they're just, getting off the ground, but that's one thing, I'd hate to pay for something that we can get from one and pay for it twice.
Yeah, and as of right now, with COSBA, we're not paying for it twice, so that's a great point. That assuming that we move forward and stay with the NSBA for now, we're not paying it twice at this moment. If COSBA comes back and starts charging us for something, then we'll need to have that conversation again, because I completely agree.
Okay. That was only my question.
Has there been any talk of Illinois rejoining NSBA now that they're under new leadership?
And I can say this from my meeting in Lake Division, no, because Illinois is a founding partner of COSBA. They're one of the founding states. So my guess is we're going to see that one to the bitter end? Question mark? Any other questions on COSBA or NSBA? Hearing none, we'll move on then to the Community Eligibility Program, CEP. Dr. Gibbons.
Good evening. The passage of the Healthy, Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010 allowed school districts that were eligible to provide free breakfast and free lunch to our students without an additional income verification process. Round Lake School District applied for this in 2018, and our application for this expired 4 years later, which would bring us to June of 2022. We currently submitted an updated application, and we were once again approved, so our students will receive free breakfast and free lunch through this program, CEP, or Community Eligibility Provision. However, I'm very excited to report that due to our economic status within our community, basically the needs of our community, we will be providing additional reimbursement that the district will receive based on those meals. So when we received our funding sources with the first application, there was subsidy that the district had to provide for that. But based on the current needs of our district, that has been recognized, and we will be receiving additional funding to offset that. So for example, originally the breakfast allocation was $2.32. Our allocation has been received at $2.39. Lunch was $3.66. Our lunch application now will go to $3.78. So when you think about every student every day for every one of those meals claimed over 4 years, those are additional dollars back to us as a district.
Is that,
If I could just add, because this was on the Finance Committee agenda. So again, we did discuss this, and it's great to see that we'll be at 100%. That's awesome.
yeah, that's awesome news. And is this for another 4-year period?
So, and then in my discussion with Dr. Kibbens, even if our numbers change, we're locked in for this 4 years at the 100%.
Any additional questions in regards to the community eligibility program, other than really great news? Hearing none, thank you. Next up is the sponsorship program update.
So just a reminder, the Board of Education, we had an extensive presentation sharing what the different levels of sponsorship were available to us. We've sought out those sponsorship opportunities to our local community members as well as to the vendors that support our district. As a reminder, those 4 levels are Elite, Panther, Maize, and Blue. To date, we have confirmed signed agreements with Life Touch at the Panther level, Organic Life at the Panther level, and State Bank of the Lakes at the Maize level. And of special note, they are interested in doing a multi-year agreement with us. At this point, the $11,500 is going back to offset the cost of those additional costs with that scoreboard from the transition to the non-video to the video. But I just wanted to give the Board of Education an update. Since we have a new, very enthusiastic administration, there's an opportunity now for that next level of participation and moving forward with some new vision.
So I'll just piggyback off Dr. Kivens. Kevin and I met with the new administration for the high school, Brian and Ethan, the AD. Back, if you can remember, when we were doing the high school stadium project, and the scoreboard was, Scott's already smiling, and the discussion came up for the scoreboard for the new athletic field. Kevin and I came forward wanting to put the video board. We were like, it's going to be cheaper and better if we do this now and try to do this as an add-on later. It'd be more expensive to the district, and we probably would never be able to do it at a later date. With your support, because we had said, we were informed, promised, if you will, that we could create a sponsorship program that would cover that difference for the scoreboard, which was about, well, it is $44,358.60 to be exact. But as you know, that sponsorship program did not take off for multiple reasons, but also including a pandemic that closed us down for some time, and going remote and nothing in the world opening and working for a while. Now that we have new leadership in the high school, and as I mentioned, Kevin and I met with them, they have a vision of the sponsorship program with those monies that they would collect, that they would like to do with that money and going out to members in the community asking for the sponsorship. They want to be able to say what that money is going to be used for. And while, again, the original intent, and we did, meaning Finance Committee tried to hold administration with that sponsorship, it was hard for a multitude of reasons, as we all know, and that didn't happen. But we would like to support the new administration, meeting with them and seeing their enthusiasm and what they would like to do currently. So again, there was $44,000, and with the work that Pam and Heather have done with sponsorship, which is $11,500, as you heard Pam talk about Kia, Life Touch, Organic Life, and State Bank of the Lakes, we would put that towards that $44,000, that $11,500. And again, when we looked at the budget for that project, I have to look at my phone, so I apologize. There's some notes on here. We had originally said that the high school athletic field would be about $7 million. Of course, with issues with the soil and stabilization, working around the wetlands that are around there that we couldn't touch, we came in at 7.9. We did have other funds in there, and also with Arizona emissions, with things going on with the project, we did get some of those monies back. We also did, though, put $123,000 into stadium sound, which gave us $8 million. But we have sensed, with Pam's due diligence and with the contracts with vendors and suppliers, we have covered all that cost, and we do sit fine with that project. And we are hoping with, again, your support, knowing that we are keeping track of all this, we would like to support the new high school administration with their endeavor with the sponsorship program. And I'm going to pass this around. This is their vision of what they want to do with the sponsorship money, is create a wall So if you're exiting the high school stadium, you have the blank wall right across from that, and you'll see in the picture there, this is currently at Lake Forest High School. It's called their Wall of Excellence. It's what they expect of their students and athletes, and this is something they envision here at our high school, which is beautiful, and I think it is something that would be great for our students, our community, and attractive for the building instead of a blank brown wall. But they want to know that when they go out and sell these sponsorships, that they can say, this is what it's supporting. Any questions?
I don't have any questions.
I know we don't have a full board here tonight, unfortunately.
Right, I see that. So how does the wall link to the sponsorships?
So the sponsorships, the money they make from that's going to pay for that.
And just as a clarification, because I know in the picture there, that's actually their gym that it's on, but for us, it would just be the building.
That is outside, actually at Lake Forest High School.
Yeah, but it looks like it's a wall where, it's not gonna be facing that way when you're sitting inside the.
Well, our stadium doesn't look like
Right,
that,
exactly.
so, but
Okay,
yeah.
that's all.
That's why I'm giving you our visual,
Yeah.
yeah. Forest looks a little different. But again, the Finance Committee is in support after meeting with the high school administration, seeing their vision, seeing their excitement, their organization, and their commitment, and we would like to support them.
So, just for clarification, I'm glad the Finance Committee's on board. Is this one that we're having to bring back for a vote, or is this?
No, because
we
we're
wanna
just,
get a feel for
no, we
this?
just want to make sure you guys are in agreement, because again, Kevin and I, the Finance Committee came to you as a board. Now, I know this board also looks a little different from when we did that, but that was a word that we gave you, and again, I know the board has a lot of trust in the Finance Committee, and we don't take that for granted.
Well, I have no problem with it. I would fully support it. I see it looks like Miss Lee is doing the head bob thing.
Again, because we had told the board that we could raise to cover that cost with the sponsorship. Obviously, we're 3 years out now, and things look a little different.
And you got a thumbs up from Scott as well, it looks
All
like.
right, I'm sure they'll be happy to know. Again, we appreciate it. And again, like I said, we don't take what we tell the board for granted.
Thank you for that. And now, next up, we are to fiscal '23 budget assumptions. See, no, you can't sit down yet.
It's just going to be Pam all night, so.
Okay, so we're going to continue our update to the board as we have with our budget picture. This is not our proposed tentative budget. Our proposed tentative budget will come to you next month in August for full approval in September to make sure that we're in compliance with Illinois Administrative Code guidelines. But this is a picture to kind of prep you, the appetizer before the main course. So as we're talking about the appetizer of main course, the budget picture that we're looking at, we have not received confirming information on our evidence-based funding dollars for fiscal '23. So all of the information that you see here in this picture is based on a flat number. Flat meaning what we know we received last year for funding from the state. We're looking at that picture here. So with that being said, some adjustments to that picture that are confirmed. As you look at line 8 on the investment income, the treasurer's report for this month, ending the fiscal year, showed an interest yield of $200,000 for all of our investments. Based on the market with how topsy-turvy it was, that was, I think, a very solid number for us to end the year on. The additional $60,000 is what we know we will receive based on the support of the Board of Education for the Treasury note that's invested, and those dollars will yield in December to us. So you're seeing an adjustment number there at 260. Line 17 reflects an increase in our property casualty insurance. This is due to an unanticipated increase in the cyber liability area. Line 45 reflects an increase of a teacher component for English new language learner teachers, one at the high school, one at McGee, and two at Round Lake Middle School. Line 47 reflects a 1.0 language learner ESL teacher that will be at Round Lake Middle. Line 48 reflects a .70 speech pathologist that would be a contract position, and that person would be .50 at the district and .20 at the EEC. Line 49 reflects a 1.0 special education teacher that will be housed at Round Lake Middle School, and pending the Board of Education approval this evening, line 77 reflects an increase of a 1.0 SRO to be at Round Lake Middle School. Knowing that we have a flat base on our evidence-based funding, we have a positive budget position of $1,292,947.
So I just want to call out for the board, lines 45, 47, and 49 you've seen already. Those were brought as separate action items, so we don't want you to think these are new. Those are not new. You've seen those before, but because we only have one board meeting in July, between typically March and August, generally once a month we try to bring the updated budget picture to you. And then obviously, because we only have one meeting, the SRO is pending board approval. We're certainly not taking anything for granted. So we're in a desirable budget position. We're being very cautious with what we bring to you. But again, for this fiscal year, I'm pleased to say we have a $1.2 million surplus.
Any questions for Dr. Gibbons or the administration in regards to budget assumptions?
No questions, but just again to review that Finance Committee did discuss this evening and reviewed as well.
Definitely sounds like good news to me. All right, next up is the 2022-2023 student handbook changes.
Good evening. So over the winter of 2022, our team worked with Paul Gorski from the Equity Leadership Institute to do an evaluation of our student handbook. We went through there, looked for, Mr. Gorski made a number of recommendations for us. Most of them fall in line with use of more inclusive language, removing statements that were deemed somewhat judgmental, and then creating a more equitable and comfortable environment for our students. So you can see below are all the listed proposed changes. Some of the highlights include the dress code changes, some of the changes to availability of these resources for parents, and then a change in how we look at possession versus distribution in the student behavior section. So I would entertain any questions regarding these changes.
I just want to call out the team has spent probably a year on this, close to. We've also got information from other school districts. So I just want to thank the team for being thoughtful. I think the review of our handbook is a fairly common practice, but this is the first time we've actually gone through with an equity lens, and I think as a superintendent, I think the recommendations are proper and they're appropriate and they align with board policy. That's the other thing, is you want to make sure they align with our board policy. So.
I like it, I especially like the inclusive change up to more inclusive terminology across the board, so thank you for that. All right, hearing no additional questions, thank you. And next up now is the 2022-2023 masking protocols update.
Yeah, so I'll cover this one. This is more, I want, certainly entertain questions or feedback. But just to take you back a little bit, March of 2020, COVID hits, all the districts in the state shut down. 2021, we opened the year in fully remote. Spring of 21, we go to a hybrid model, bring some of our students back. Last year, we were full return, but we started out with masks, universal masking. The spring is where kind of things shifted with the DeVore lawsuit, coupled with the expiration of the governor's executive order. We went to basically 3 tiers of masking. And so we've had this incremental, what I like to call incremental transition back to the new version of normal. I think we will be dealing with COVID-19 in the foreseeable future, years. I can't see it going away. And so, if you remember, when the governor's executive order expired in February, I actually called a roll call vote for our plan because the executive order expired. The executive order had governed like structure and behavior and mitigation and those types of things. That plan that you approved expired June 30th. So my interest was to, again, take another incremental step in terms of trying to get us back to what new normal is. We plan on starting the year in a normal school year, our return to school events, those types of things. In the research I've conducted, I have different groups with which I'm affiliated. We have Northern Lake County Conference superintendents. We have other superintendents in the county. We have the Large Unit District Association. I'm connected with EdRed. What's become very clear is all of the districts I know are trying to start out in a normal school year. They're not necessarily having formal votes on plans for return, but I am getting everything from we are going back as if COVID didn't happen, but we have mitigation plans if something happens, which is a plan in itself, to kind of something that we're doing. So I don't necessarily need a roll call vote. That's not what I'm looking for. But because the board's plan that you voted on expired June 30th, I think it's better at this point in where we are holistically that this becomes operational again. It gives me the authority to adjust quicker. And many districts are kind of, what they're saying, they're using the term, we're taking this holistic approach. And that means we're looking at hospitalizations, we're looking at case rates, we're looking at hospital bed availability, and there is decent data on the CDC website with counties in transmission levels. That's the other thing I'm not sure you remember happened, is based on hospital bed availability and case rates and hospital admissions, they came up with these new metrics. It's red, yellow, green, based on that. Now, what I would tell you at the end of the year, Lake County was in red, but because we had customized our plan to the point that we did, it was based on school level, we were able to stay open, and many schools actually were able to stay in mask recommended. So, in my opinion, depending on which community one resides in, that CDC community transmission dashboard can either help you or hurt you. So in my opinion, our plan worked. This is different in the sense that we've modified the metrics for the 3 different levels upward by 0.5%. It's been vetted with the union. I've talked to the health department. So it's in effect a mitigation effort if we need it. So I'm just bringing this to you because it's important, making you aware of where we are. And we are going into a fall. This fall is a little bit different than last year. If you remember, if my memory is correct, in July, in the United States, we had less than 10,000 cases a day. Well, that's significantly higher right now, but we'll have to see how it affects us. But we are planning on starting a regular year. But I want to reassure the board, we are completely prepared with mitigation if we need it. We have the ability to social distance in classrooms. We have available testing. We have mask protocols. So we have all these things in place if we need to. So I feel very good about where we are, and we've demonstrated the ability to make changes quickly. The dashboard will remain in place on the website so that parents will have access to that. And so this is just a slight adjustment on where we are with the different levels. So I'll entertain any questions, happy to talk about the justification, but feel pretty good about where we're at.
Questions?
I'm glad we have a plan going in. And so even if we don't have to use it, at least it's there.
And the other thing is, we are too taking a holistic approach, but you have to, at some point, you have to make a decision on a thing. It can't just be, I think, I feel, I believe, and so, right or wrong, and this is a working plan, and if we need to adjust it, we will, and do what's best for our community and school district.
Any other questions? I like it. Yeah, like Mr. Jewett said, definitely it's good to have a plan. We have something there, and like you said, Dr. Mendoza, we can always make adjustments to it as we need to. Hearing none, we will now move on to recycle of obsolete technology equipment.
Okay, consistent with previous technology recycling efforts, this memo contains the latest list of obsolete technology equipment. Mr. Albers and his technicians do an outstanding job of reaching out to our partners in recycling. This time we found a recycler willing to provide us a check for $1,500 for the equipment we're disposing of.
Any questions from the board in regards to the equipment, etc.?
No, just, he's still trying to find those avenues to even get money for some obsolete items.
The team does a great job of that each and every time. Thank you.
So,
Yeah, and I was just going to double back on, especially with the way we handled the iPad situation, with being able to offer that to it as well. I don't know if down the road some of these, I know some of this stuff is so old it's pretty much worthless, but have we ever tried to see if there's a desire for people to pick those up?
We can certainly look at that. We've heard from staff that they would like opportunities for specifically around laptops, so we'll continue to look at that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, some of this stuff is old, but at the same time, some of it is interesting, and like some of our community partners, the Epson projectors and things like that could definitely go a long way.
Agreed. Sometimes the challenge is, in this case, finding a market value for each item may be difficult. They're just giving us one check for all of it. So we may have to do additional work to get to that point where we know what the market would bear.
Be interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hearing no other questions on obsolete technology equipment, we'll now go to what in the world is Mr. Rowling throwing away this month.
I think we have a fun selection for you in items that we're disposing of this month. Any questions?
Hearing no questions, thank you very much, as always.
Actually, I did have a question.
Uh-oh, dun dun dun.
The first item is a globe that is outdated. Is it flat?
Well, there have been a lot of changes in the geopolitical arena since some of those globes, including the one in Dr. Center's office, have been developed. So it could be outdated for a number of reasons.
Thank you.
Next up is reviewing of the FOIA report. Any questions from the board to the administration on the FOIA report or the information presented therein? Hearing none, thank you. I will move on then to contracts under 1,000. It looks like we do have one contract under 1,000, and it was being spelled out there. Do we have any questions in regards to that?
Yeah, we did look at finance, but there was, it's just the, it's for Blackboard, for the web designs. The new logos, or mascots, whatever you want to call it.
The new critters. Hearing no questions there, next we will step up to public comment. As always, members of the public may participate in public comment during regular board meetings by attending in person, thank you for coming in person, or by submitting an electronic public comment form, thank you for attending online. Please note that speakers are limited to 3 minutes of time. Electronic public comments will be accepted up until 12 p.m. on the day of this regularly scheduled board meeting, and public commenter will be contacted to confirm identity. Once confirmed, the electronic public comment will be provided to all board members in a written form, and a link to the electronic public comment form can be found in the online board packets. Did we have any online public comment this cycle?
Not aware of any.
And do we have any public comment here inside the meeting room? Hearing no public comment here, next up we will move on to the superintendent's report and Dr. Mendoza.
Thank you, Board President and Board of Education. For your convenience, I'd like to call out several back-to-school events. I'm very pleased to be able to announce these again. Thursday, August 11th, from 3:30 to 5 p.m., we have school supply drop-off and the meet and greet at our elementary schools. And then from 5:30 to 7, open house at our secondary schools, which include John T. McGee Middle School, Round Lake Middle School, Round Lake High School, and the Round Lake Transition Center. Friday, August 12th, 7:25 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., 6th grade orientation, 8:30 a.m. to 2:45 p.m., 9th grade orientation. Monday, August 15th, as a gentle reminder, is our first day of school, with the exception of afternoon kindergarten. The Round Lake Area 16 Education Foundation has started their planning and work for the 22-23 school year. We look forward to sharing details about their upcoming projects and events in the upcoming months. We are pleased to announce that the following individuals will serve in officer roles for the organization. Judy Armstrong, as president, Lisa Page Pierce as vice president, Paul Mapplethorpe is the treasurer, and Tina Wysocki is the secretary. We'd also like to inform the board of a school supply donation. New Hope Community Church is partnering with the district again with the donation of 500 school supply filled backpacks for elementary age children. Distribution will take place on Saturday, July 30th. Families will receive details in the coming week. And last but certainly not least is I'm sure the board knows that I take notes during the board meeting. We know we have several items that you wanted us to bring back to you, which include door locking from the inside door locking during emergencies. I think Mr. Jewett brought that up. We are going to get some comparables with the automobile claims for driver's ed cars. I think Ms. Larson asked about that, and then we're also going to bring back streaming information for the board's consideration, because I know there was some discussion about streaming the Finance Committee and the Community Engagement meeting. So I just want to make you aware we have not forgotten about those. That concludes the superintendent's report.
I just have one question. For the open houses, can we make sure those come on our calendar, since I know it's been a while since we've had actual open houses?
Yep. Janelle, would you mind shooting Outlook invites for all of those dates to the full board? Thank you.
Appreciate it. I know I look forward to open house this year.
Any additional questions or comments on the superintendent's report? Hearing none, we will turn it over to the Finance Committee.
Okay, so Finance met this evening, and of course, with the board being on the summer schedule, everything on the Finance Committee is on our regular board report, except for just a few items that I will go over. The high school theater project, which is still moving forward. They've started with the deconstruction, and that's just kind of moving along. No real news to report there. And everything else is actually on the agenda. I just would point out again, I would always ask the board to review the treasurer's report. And then just to highlight, and I don't know if Dr. Kimmons mentioned this, again, it's hard to hear, sorry, with the fans. Just pointing out on the budget assumptions for fiscal year 23, you're on line 8 with the investment opportunities that Dr. Kimmons has brought forward. You know, we've made 200,000, anticipate 260,000 for the fiscal year. So again, just you're making sure our money is working for us. And if you did, I apologize if you did mention that. I didn't hear, I couldn't hear with all the fans, but I just wanted to point that out. And as you heard Dr. Mendoza point out all the additions and what's going on with the fiscal year budget, and again, that will come forward in August. The other items that, again, that we've discussed in finance that are on the regular board, I'll touch on those like I have been so far as those come up, if that's okay. Good. All right, that's it.
All right, thank you so much for that. And next up, we are to approval of open meeting minutes.
All right, I need a motion to approve the June 20th, 2022 special meeting expulsion hearing minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Need a motion to approve the June 20th, 2022 special meeting public hearing air fund minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Need a motion to approve the June 20th, 2022 special meeting for the public hearing minutes.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mr. Rivera. Roll call, please.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Need a motion to approve the June 20th, 2022 regular board meeting minutes.
So second.
Motion by Mr. Rivera, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Roll call, please.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes. And motion carries.
All right, we're on to the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda for the accounts payable report for $2,442,508.72. The previous motions report for $129,283.65. The June 2022 treasurer's report, the June 2022 P-card report, the July 18th, 2022 employment report.
So moved. Second. Motion by Mr. Francisco, seconded by Mr. Rivera. Roll call, please.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
And motion carries. All right, next up we have our introduction of new administration.
Good evening. It is quite the unique experience to be afforded the opportunity to hand select a replacement for my former position, but I'm very encouraged and excited to fill this position with my new counterpart. With a committee of village staff members, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our candidate for the position of assistant principal, Mrs. Kylin Machopoulos. Kai has a Bachelor's of Science degree in Psychology in an elementary education from Illinois State University, a Master's of Arts degree in Differentiated Instruction from Concordia University, and a Master's of Arts degree in Educational Leadership from NEIU. For the last 13 years, Kai has worked as a Spanish teacher, classroom teacher, and instructional coach in Grays Lake District 46, and prior to that worked at a junior high school in Normal, Illinois. Kai was a member of the Equity and Inclusion Committee and served on the District Equity Leadership Team in her previous district. She has served as a member of the Literacy Team that worked to adopt a new literacy program for the upcoming school year, as well as served on the MTSS team. She has held various leadership positions in her district, including team leader, Science Olympiad co-sponsor, and Bridges Summer School co-director. In her spare time, on a personal note, Kai has a husband named Jimmy, who's here tonight, and two daughters named Alex and Sophie, who's also here tonight. Alex, her older daughter, is a recent graduate of Marquette and is currently employed by the Sheboygan Press as a news reporter, and Sophie will be starting the second grade in the fall. As a family, they enjoy traveling when they can, playing board games, watching movies, and simply enjoying time together. Kai enjoys trying new food, crafting, and watching crime documentaries. She looks forward to getting to know the Village Elementary School family and collaborating with all stakeholders for the betterment of our school community. Please join me in welcoming Kai Mashopoulos.
Thank you so much. Again, I'm Kai Mashopoulos. My sincerest thanks for this opportunity to the board and to Dr. Mendoza. This is a great opportunity for me, and I know the importance of this role. I also want to thank you to Mrs. Kurtz and the interview team for believing me, for sitting down with me and believing that I would be a good fit for the school, for Village Elementary, and believing that I would be a positive addition there. If I can, I'd also like to thank my family and everyone who helped build me up and take me through these last 2 years in this program. It was quite a challenge. And to everyone along the way in my educational career who saw my leadership and helped me to build my own capacity as a leader. So I think we all have someone that helps you to realize your leadership, and I had many people along the way that helped me to do that. I'm very, very excited to start this journey here in Round Lake. Really excited to get into the building and meet the staff and to start working with Mrs. Kurtz and everyone there to continue to do what's best for kids. This is a great opportunity for me. I really do appreciate it. I'm excited to start this next journey here in Round Lake with you. Thank you.
Nice job, Miss Kurtz. That was your first one. Give you an A- on that one. No. Solid A on that one. Very nice. Nicely done.
Grades are being hard around here. Wow.
All right, we'll go on to new business. I need a motion to approve the increase of 1.0 FTE special education teaching assistants in the amount of $57,000.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tavera, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Any questions?
No questions. As I mentioned, I'll touch on those items that were on the Finance Committee as they come up on the agenda this evening. This was on the Finance Committee. This is grant funded. They were waiting for the approval of the grant prior to bringing this to the board. So that's why we see this a little later from other positions that were brought forward.
Thank you for that clarification. Roll call, please.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mr. Tavera?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
And motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the independent contractor agreement for school hello, maybe I might need some psychological services for $68,400.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mr. DeVera. Any clarification from finance on this one?
Yes. Again, this is this is a fill position of somebody who has resigned, but they are coming back as a contractor because they had to leave for personal reasons, but we obviously still need to fill that position. They're only able to work part-time, and that's what this contract is for.
Thank you for that clarification.
So there's still an open rec, it's just getting filled temporarily by this role, is that the intent?
Is it temporarily? Yes. No. Yes, no,
So this is a position that I think we continue to try to fill, but we are filling it with a temporary position, person right now who has availed us of her services in the prior, so we know her work product.
So,
Yes, we will continue
to
to
Mr.
fill.
Jewett's question then, are we keeping an open requisition for this so that at some point, if the right candidate came in, we would fill it and then this contract would be canceled?
Correct.
so that was a yes.
Yes.
Not so, but we got there, I think.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. DeVera?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Motion carried. I'm just going to ask for clarification. Did I get a, okay, first and a second. I just wanted to make sure I did that. All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Right. I need a motion to approve the Power School renewal contract for the 2022-2023 school year in the amount of $15,760.79.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mr. DeVera. Any clarifications?
Yes, again, this was reviewed by finance this evening. This was also reviewed previously and reported out when we did all the contract renewals for the district. This is used for evaluations. They're only doing a one-year contract because Power School will be changing their platform. So they want to make sure using it the 1 year before they commit to a multi-year.
Makes sense? Hearing no additional questions, roll call, please.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. DeVera?
Yes. Motion carries.
Need a motion to approve the increase in the daily and long-term substitute compensation rates as noted in the memo.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mr. DeVera. And clarification on that one?
Yes, so obviously, we canceled, this was on Finance Committee this evening, we canceled the contract with Kelly and we are taking substitutes in-house and reviewing those rates. As you saw in the memo, we're still not the highest, but we are still comparable. Finance had just asked because, again, knowing the market is so tight with teachers and getting substitutes, just to make sure that we are comparable if we're getting a lot of call-offs. If you look in that table, a lot of our neighbors are still offering a higher rate. I'm not saying we want us to be the highest rate either, but just to kind of keep an eye on it. If we are still having issues getting subs, maybe we have to go back and look at it again.
Yeah, with any hiring, you've got to make sure that you're properly positioned. So I definitely understand that.
Yeah, I do have a question. So if the comparisons, so just imagine somewhere in some of these districts, there's a board sitting around changing their rates, and so when we're all done, is it all just going to lay out the same place?
So I would say not yet, but Ms. McGinley brought this up. When we made their change, Mary, was it your first year, Dr. Lamping? we went from the bottom to the top third. We kind of moved. And given what's happened the last 2-3 years, this has accelerated. So this is current information for 22-23. Now, I will tell you, in some of the information that I collected, I mean, we're all pretty transparent with each other, the superintendents, and one of them just called it out. He said, I hate that you're asking me this. I know why you're asking, and this is like turning into an arms race. And so what we're just trying to do is make the adjustment. Ms. Negretti-McGinley said properly, we don't want to be at the top or bottom of any finance list, but we're to the point where we're not very competitive. So we'll monitor it. We'll actually assess the data to see if it has an effect on our ability to fill positions, and we'll update the board. So that was actually brought up. So
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know that we'll ever get away from that, but to your point.
yes.
All right, hearing no other questions, roll call, please.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Motion carries.
Need a motion to approve the appointment of Mrs. Christy Belliciotis and Dr. Pam Kibbens as the Round Lake Area School District 116 IMRF authorized agents and direct administration to execute all documents relating to these appointments.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Francisco, seconded by Mr. Jewett.
And again, this was on the Finance Committee agenda item. This is a yearly transaction. Obviously, the individuals who hold those positions are the ones that we appoint.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Motion carries.
Need a motion to approve the list of public depositories and authorize board officers and district administration to execute all documents relating to these depositories.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rivera, seconded by Ms. Lee.
And again, this was on the Finance Committee meeting. Again, these are yearly activities that take place. So Dr. Kibbens, again, are that person holding that position.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Motion carries.
Need a motion to approve the Ohio Pile contract for the 2022-2023 year.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rivera, seconded by Mr. Jewett.
So again, this was through finance, just to recall, the Ohio Pile contract are spiritwares that you can get at Walgreens, Jewel Osco. So this is a contract that we had with them last year. Even with the pandemic, we received about $4,000, a little north of that. So again, we want to continue to do that. The Finance Committee's feedback was to do a service for a contract that we signed for them and for us, we need to publicize it better. We don't do that. That is only the request we bring. With obviously homecoming coming up in September, you do have alumni that come back in town for the all-class reunion. Some of them aren't able to make the game to buy spiritware at the football games, but if we let them know that there's other opportunities to purchase this stuff, it's only a benefit to Ohio Pile and us. We are signing a contract with them, but we're not doing anybody any service by not letting our community know that they can receive spiritware at these places of business.
We're going to mention all the places of business or just a couple?
It's only Jewel, Osco, and Walgreens.
Thought CVS was still on it.
I don't think CVS. CVS is too, sorry.
There's 2 Walgreens and 1 CVS.
Yes, it's two Walgreens, one CVS. So it's the Walgreens in Round Lake and the Walgreens in Haynesville, and then the CVS in Round Lake.
You were just blocking out the
No.
three-letter people.
I am a little preferential to Walgreens.
Sounds great. Thank you. Any additional questions? Roll call, please.
Miss Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Mr. Devera,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement with the Village of Round Lake Heights for a school resource officer in the amount of $49,777.02.
So, second.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Mr. Devera.
Just a couple comments, and Ms. McGinley can give the summary of what finance discussed, because Mr. DeVere asked a really good question. Just to refresh the board's memory with the background, I think this was at the May meeting. The way the structure of the Round Lake Heights Police Department is, it's a smaller police force, coupled with the statutory change with the requirements for threat assessments, has kind of changed the dynamics of what's needed. So the administration is recommending approval on this. We definitely think there's a need. This is something, it's our second largest school. We have around 800 students, but it's something we'll monitor and certainly take the board's feedback on. It's a pretty unique situation. It's a little bit different than the high school because of the size of the police force. But I'm going to defer to Ms. McGinley on some of the other details that were talked about.
So we asked that, this agreement mirror what we do with the Village of Round Lake that we currently have in place for the Village of Round Lake with the high school resource officer that's here. Making sure, and of course it was added for Round Lake and it is added for the Village of Round Lake Heights. Like health mitigation or whatever we have in place, as Dr. Mendoza talked about, new protocols possibly going forward. So it's outlined in there that officer follow that. Again, knowing that the Village of Round Lake Heights is a smaller community, a smaller unit, there is only the 5 officers, so we asked, making sure. And I know there's, just like we do with the Village of Round Lake, they sign a contract, we have to hold them to that service level of agreement. So there's no specific language in either intergovernmental agreement on the agenda for both that's on here this evening. Does it have language that spells out what consequences or what happens if somebody isn't there? But again, it's us holding them accountable to the contract that we have with them. I know I am in support of it, and the Finance Committee is in support of it. As you heard Dr. Mendoza speak to, different protocols and mitigations that we have to adhere to. I also think the communication we send our community and those parents at both McGee and at Round Lake Middle is prudent, because we don't want either community to think one thing or the other based on them receiving it or not receiving an SRO.
Last thing, and again, I know this was important, is there is an expectation that there's sub coverage if the officer is sick or cannot perform. I mean, this is not, we're paying for a service. We expect it to be honored, and Corey, I think, did a really nice job when we met with their team about that expectation. And so, again, this is a little bit of it is a new arrangement for us. We'll monitor it, and we always have the option of not renewing it if it does not go well. So, Corey, do you have anything else to add?
Well, if I could just add, Corey, sorry. We did ask that they come back middle of next year, school year, just to give us a pulse of what's happening, to make sure that how this is going as well, since it is a new agreement.
And it does say in the agreement that if the officer is absent or on vacation or anything, that they shall put in another officer. And when I talked to the Finance Committee, I would say Round Lake Heights is at a good place as far as staffing. So as far as being able to put that officer there if the SRO is absent for whatever reason, I would say they're in a good position for this year. As always, they're a small department, so their manpower and things like that goes up and down by a year-to-year basis. So, but for this coming school year, they're in a good spot.
Yeah, that was my main point that we brought up in finance, was just to assure that we're assured of having somebody there from doors open to doors closed, regardless of what their staffing looks like. That's what we're paying for. And then also, Corey, did you want to hit on the fact that this is not a direct result of any kind of escalated behavior or anything like that? It's just based on need and their staffing and lag times that may or may not result.
Yeah, this isn't a request based off of any criminal activity going on inside the school, that there's a big uptick, and that's why we needed anything like that. This is just, they are a small department, limited resources, so if a call comes out and it's not for the Round Lake Middle School, it's something that they have to address, and then we do need an officer, that there will be a delay in them getting to us and providing any kind of resources or service, or just any educational, on what's going on and things like that within the school. So, I mean, that's the part of it, that the true need is if there's something going on in the community and they need to address it, it does impact their school by not having that type of response for any situation we have at the Round Lake Middle School.
Corey, this may sound like a silly question or simple question. What do you use to measure if it's working or not?
I would just say the overall impact in the school. I mean, visibility is a big part of it, and where they come into the school as far as blending as a true partner in the school. The impact, I don't think there's a way to truly measure it. It's, I would say, as the staff, the students, parents, things like that, on how, what type of resource that's having that officer is or is providing to the school, and any type of safety or security they feel that that extra layer is providing to, just provide a little bit more insurance of what's, things that have happened, nationally, and things in our country that, they are seeing, and they are providing assistance when needed, and they're just looked at as a value to the school district and to that specific.
Mr. Jewett, what I would say is, one of the things we would bring back is we expect this individual, whoever it is, to be integrated into the school. This isn't somebody sitting on a chair and waiting for something to happen, very similar to what we have at the high school. So there's an expectation that there's education involved. They're involved with teachers, with educating students on various aspects of kind of what's going on now. We would certainly take a look at numbers, because now we have a coding in our system with number of interactions with students. We have that data. I mean, we've set up the system like that. So we would bring all of the information we had, and then frankly, we certainly would get feedback from the staff at the building on effectiveness, lag time, and that kind of thing.
So if I hear this right, there's two pieces. One is an on-call piece, right, in terms of the report, and then the second part is there's actually a presence on a regular basis?
No, so there is no on-call. They're in the building. This is not, they're driving in the neighborhood, we call and they come. They're in the building, is what Mr. DeVera said, from when the bell rings to when the school's over. They're there just like the high school.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. DeVera?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
No.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Right. I need a motion to approve the school resource officer intergovernmental agreement with the Village of Round Lake in the amount of $91,597.20.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Francisco, seconded by Mr. De Vera.
This one is a standard. We've had this every year. I'm going to defer to the Finance Committee for the update. So-
No, you're good. So yeah, as Dr. Mendoza was on finance, again, it's a standard agreement. We've had this for multiple years. I would just note the dollar amount in the request is based on the officer you receive. So it's based on their seniority or their level within the department. So that's why you'll see a difference from the Village of Round Lake Heights versus the Village of Round Lake.
And also clarification, this one, Round Lake has been providing this for years on end.
As I said, multiple years. Yes,
Right.
we've had this for multiple years.
And again, they have a police force of 40-plus strong inside that we're working.
Yes, we've not had an issue with them having an officer here, especially when we went through COVID and, many people were out for COVID. But again, the Village of Round Lake is a much bigger community than the Village of Round Lake Heights. Round Lake Heights is a police force of 5 and Round Lake is 40-ish.
Any additional questions? Roll call, please.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. De Vera?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes. Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the agreement with DLA Architects LTD to provide architectural services to the district.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. De Vera, seconded by Ms. Lee.
And again, this was on Finance Committee, and again, this goes back to, I don't know, a month or so ago when we had the committee of interviewing multiple architects so that the district has multiple architects of record on hand for depending on the different projects we have going on. DLA Architects is the last one, that is 3 of the 3. We approved the other 2 previously, so this is the last one. And this will give our district a total of 4 architects of record on file. Again, this is, we only pay when a project, we ask or give them a project, so there's no fees incurred to the district just to have an architect of record on file.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. De Vera?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Need a motion to approve the 2022 Illinois Marching Band Competition Field Trip Request
So moved.
in the amount of $450. Sorry.
So moved.
Like it's always a budget.
Motion by Mr. Jewett, seconded by Ms. Lee. I'll throw out the question, where are the competitions? I know this is the traditional end of year one. Where else are they competing this year?
Grays Lake North, Prospect, and I believe Naperville is in there too. I was just looking at it today and I feel like Naperville was right there on the tip of my tongue.
No trips to Sandwich this year?
No, not this year.
No sandwich. Any additional questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. De Vera?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Motion carries. I'll just throw it there as a quick one. As a parent with an ISU student, ISU has band competitions we can go to as well.
So does NIU. They used to go.
Exactly. See? I mean, come on.
Yeah, so what?
But my kid did
I'll pass
marching
the
band
word
in
along.
college.
I'll pass the word along.
You have a question or just a comment for the the competitions, could we get those on our calendar as well? We don't get those, and sometimes I scroll through to get them, but sometimes I do miss them after the fact. It would be nice to add those to our calendars as well.
Absolutely, I can send them.
Good to you, Nara.
Yeah, I can
Nara puts them- okay, perfect.
put them on, that's what I meant, yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry, that was an odd request. That's my future occurrence there.
Well, no, and to that point, and I've asked it on pretty much everything, and I know I do it as well. I'd love to see us get everything sent to our calendars. That way we can have it. We can have it and be able to pick through it. Yeah, will it make our calendars look full? Absolutely, but better to see it than not.
No champagne this
I
year?
appreciate that.
Champagne.
Hey, look, Mr. Jewett, you fill our calendars up by yourself, so
All right, we'll get to the next item on the agenda. I need a motion to approve the request to partner with Equity Literacy Institute in the amount of $52,000.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mr. Francisco. Finance?
Yes, again, this was on the Finance Committee this evening. This is, the equity lens that we've done within the district. This is now for the superintendent's cabinet. So I know they're looking forward to doing this, and we just asked if they could report back on their take on what they did in this discussion panel.
Hearing no other questions, roll call, please.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Right. I need a motion to approve the superintendent employment contract of Dr. Don Mendoza for the fiscal year 2022 through fiscal year 2027.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. DeVera, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Just as a quick heads up, this is the 5-year contract. We've talked about it as we've moved into it. Definitely glad to be able to come to a final contract. Any questions about any of the contents? Any questions from anybody on the board in regards to it?
I mean, no comments. I mean, obviously, you shared and reviewed the contract, so, I appreciate Dr. Mendoza's eagerness and willingness so we can get this settled for the next 5 years. Hopefully you'll be locked in as soon as the vote goes.
And just as a reminder that basically 1 year from today, we'll be bringing this back up because there is that kicker for that extra 1 year so that we can renew it to another 5 1 year from now. So that in essence, it'll be 6, but it's a 5 plus. Hearing no other questions, roll call please.
Mrs. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Motion carries.
On behalf of my family, I want to thank the board. It means a lot to me. Grateful, love working here. Just a great place to be. It's an amazing community. And the most important thing to a superintendent is a really good working relationship with the school board. And I feel like it's a really good partnership. So I really appreciate it on behalf of my entire family. So thank you.
Thank you.
The next one's discussion.
Yep. All right, next one is discussion on the board superintendent communications expectations mutual agreement. Did the board get a chance to, I expected you should have gotten a chance, the updated expectations that were built in there, primarily building around social media activity. And just trying to clarify the social media content and what we're holding each other accountable for. Does any questions in regards to that? Any updates?
Mr. Francisco, do you want to call out you did find one already?
Yeah, I was going to get to that, thank you. The one thing that I would like clarification on is inside of that block, Number C was using personal social media accounts without sharing personal editorial opinions. I think we need to clarify that a little bit better, because to me, the way that reads is that all my social media accounts are locked out of sharing personal editorial opinions, which is not the case. We want to make sure that we're not sharing that the board is this, that, or the other, not us individually. We are individually, we can have our own takes and our own comments, but we do not speak for the board. We don't speak as one voice for the board. We're just one vote of 7 when it comes to board. So I would ask for clarification on that in rewriting it.
Yeah. Mr. Francisco mentioned that to me, so I have ideas, and I honestly, I tried to capture the spirit of what you talked about during your self-evaluation. So I kind of assumed it wouldn't be perfect, which is why I didn't ask for approval tonight for it. So I made note of his comment, and I just wanted, respectfully ask if you could give me more feedback on that area.
I definitely agree with C, because I definitely see how that can tie us up in what they post. But for me, D, the posting of factual information, I think we need to look at that a little better, because we shouldn't even be posting factual information. We should not be putting board business at all. We should not be posting, meeting agendas or conversations. So I think that has to be defined a little better as well.
Do you think it should be eliminated? Because that's what I'm hearing.
Well, I don't know, depending on that, or if we need to tie it into B a little bit better, where whatever we're promoting is actually to use the parlance, a retweet or a repost from official district resources.
Where I was thinking of, and this is where I need your feedback, you're the board, so I'll do whatever you want to do, but I don't think there'd be anything wrong with saying, hey, please remember it's 9th grade orientation tomorrow. That's a date you're given, unless you feel like you should just not even get into that space. So
you still have to clarify that better in here, but I was just going to ask, so I know when we did that meeting, Bisbee said they had some language. Is this provided by them?
Yes.
This is theirs?
They had actually about 15 different bullet points that you could have selected. So what if we do this? What if I take that document and just send it to all of you? Okay. I tried to combine and capture this. Some of it's repetitive. It looked like the Illinois Association of School Board took different statements from different areas and just put it in one area, but a lot of them are repeats. And then if you want, you could talk directly to Mr. Francisco as the board president about maybe the language that works.
Okay, yeah, I would like to see it. I guess I envisioned something different, and having the tenure that I do on the board, when we did have a problem, but this is before social media, more blogs, and they weren't called podcasts then, but whatever they were called. So I'd be interested in seeing that.
Sounds good. We'll continue to have this conversation, guys, because again, if we know we need that, we need to update it, we need it there, we just need to come up with the right wording. All right, hearing nothing else in regards to that, we will move forward to positive occurrences. I'll start. We are less than a month away from the start of our new school year. Imagine where all that time has gone.
I just want to say it's been great to see all of the sports teams out on the fields, having their camps. It's been great to see all of the activity out there.
And I'll throw up there, especially from my AYSO role, it was an amazing tournament we were able to host here on June 25th. And we had 6 teams that participated in it. We had participants from Zion, from Round Lake, from Grays Lake, from Wakanda, and then also from the Richmond-Burton area as well. And to a person, They were all just amazed at the facilities, at the entire structure of what we had here with the stadium, the turf, having the alternate grass fields, because we actually had multiple games going, so there were games on the turf as well as on the grass, and it ran great. We had some weather issues that we had to get people to shelter for a while, and then we were able to bring them back out and complete the tournament. And it was a great tournament start to finish. Actually, the Round Lake team actually did end up competing in the championship against Wakanda and pulled it out in extra time. Had to go to overtime in order to win it 2-1. But again, the Wakanda families were absolutely just ecstatic at the level of the professionalism and how the stadium played out. So it was a great job for everybody, and thank you for all the hard work that we put into that.
I have two, both with a food theme. One is, 2 weeks ago, served about 250 families at McGee. Thank you, Mr. Francisco, and probably thank you, Melanie, for making.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think she did more than work. I just kind of wanted to.
And we're doing it again on Wednesday, so if you'd like to come help at McGee, we're going to be doing it again on Wednesday. And the second thing, the Exchange Club did the, I want to say, 3rd or 4th annual taco crawl. Tell you what, if you leave Round Lake for tacos, you're making a mistake, because there are some good spots. So that was just this past Saturday. It was absolutely fantastic. My wife, probably 2 or 3 times as we were leaving one of the restaurants, was just giggling and saying, "This is so much fun."
See, Miss Lee, you don't have to go to San Diego for tacos. We've got them here. Well, I don't know.
So, yeah, I was just going to mention, helping, with the food drive. So that was a lot of fun. So we appreciate you inviting the board. It is nice to get out there, at least for me, with directing traffic.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't the best, but I did try. It's nice to talk to the families and get that communication with them. So that was nice. And then just to reiterate, as I mentioned, Kevin and I met with the high school administration, the principal, Mr. Peterson out here, and Ethan. Really excited to see the new school year. They seem very excited for this upcoming year, so excited to see what they'll do.
And to Miss Lee's point, I've got Andrew is participating in our power camp that's running here in July, and he's also picking up a few of the soccer camp ones as well, because my man can't decide. He'll think he wants to do all the sports this year, so that'll be fun for my calendar, talking about calendars. But again, it's great seeing them out there, and I look forward to being able to start seeing us rolling by at night and seeing the lights on at the stadium, and having the use of those facilities at night as well, so that we don't necessarily have to have soccer playing on the turf at the dead of noon when the sun is beating down on everybody. But definitely looking forward to that and seeing those lights in the background, so to speak. Hearing nothing else on positive occurrences, then we will move on to future agenda items. Anybody have any future agenda items they'd like to add to the mix?
Well, I said mine earlier by just adding the band competitions to our calendar. So please and thank you.
All right, hearing no other future agenda items, we will move to approval of closed session meetings.
I need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes for May 2nd, 2022 for the special meeting expulsion hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Lee, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Roll call, please.
Mrs. McGee?
Yes.
Mr. Francisco?
Yes.
Mr. Devera?
Yes.
Miss Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Jewett?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of May 2nd, 2022 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rivera, seconded by Mr. Jewett. Roll call, please.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of May 16th, 2022 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rivera, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes. Motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the closed session meeting minutes of May 25th, 2022 special meeting expulsion hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rivera, seconded by Ms. Lee. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jewett,
Yes.
Ms. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mr. Francisco,
Yes.
Mrs. McGinley,
Yes.
Motion carries. And that brings us to an adjournment. We are adjourned as of 8:30 p.m. Everyone have a great night, and we will see you next meeting in August.